Jono, I have a question for you. Is content marketing dead?
Oh, I really hope so. I really, really hope so. I'm so bored of so many articles and blog posts and pages that businesses are just putting on the internet because they think that's the right thing to do, because they've been told that that's what SEO looks like. And they have subscriptions with agencies who tell them that they should be writing 4 blog posts a month, and they're blindly doing that instead of thinking. And I think for a long time that worked to a degree, right? We put our businesses online. We went, oh, actually, we need a way to attract and convince and convert. We didn't really plan for that because we didn't really think through what our website needed to do. Let's chuck some stuff in a blog. Let's do some keyword research. Let's pick some keywords. Let's publish 8 reasons why you should blah, 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 without considering that every one of their competitors is doing the same thing, picking the same keywords, doing the same research. And doing it that slightly less badly than their competitors maybe sent them a few hundred visitors, and they maybe hoped that they could get 2% of those to fill out a form, and they maybe hope that they can make a bit of money out of that. And the whole of the internet is just powered by this kind of awkward, accidental sea of mediocre content. And I think is it dead? I think what's changed now, hopefully, is that Google no longer needs any of that. So historically, they did to a degree, right, to disambiguate what is the thing you're offering and which brand is which and what is the difference. And you look at all these blog posts and articles and pages, and it's things like, I don't know, the example I had the other day, eight incredible reasons that teeth whitening something. Right? And every dentist on the planet has this web page. What's it for? And if you were Google or a search engine or even ChatGPT or Amazon, you look at these, how many dentists are there on the planet? A billion? How many versions of that page? A billion versions of this teeth whitening. They need maybe 4 or 5 versions of that, and then they've got it. They understand that fundamentally. So calling this concept like solved query spaces, that there are topics and concepts where Google and other systems now understand the information well enough that they don't need content as an input. And there are all sorts of examples of this.
The content marketing is dead. As soon as Google is ChatGPT, Google, whatever, wherever you're typing your search query, as soon as they can give you the result without showing you the web page, it is dead.
Yeah. And I think that's where I think we are today, but I think that's just the beginning of how dead it is. So you take recipes as a really interesting example, I think, as a solved query space, because there aren't many new foods and there aren't many new ways you can put them together. So why would you as a website owner ever publish a new lasagna recipe, right? You're not going to add value. Let me stop.
But what about the intro? Every recipe blog post
my grandma's
reminds me of the spring winds in southern Italy.
Yeah, but this is what all content's doing. I think recipes just got there first because they're fighting that same battle. But I think tomorrow starts to get even more interesting, because not only can Google just go, you know what, I understand lasagna well enough to just give you an AI result or a 0-click result, solve it in situ. The next step is then they can go, I don't know, I've searched for something stupid or something that truly doesn't exist, something new, like a blueberry anchovy risotto lasagna. A bad example, but Google understands. No one should eat that. Nobody should Google that. But Google understands that query space well enough to just synthesize a recipe, and it will create, and it will fill gaps that even human authors wouldn't have created, because nobody targets truly the long tail and 0-click stuff. So we get to a position where not only are they not incentivized to send visits to our website, they fundamentally don't need any of the articles, any of the blog posts, any of the content that we've been producing as a kind of middleware layer to trap people into clicking our websites. And I think that trend only continues, right? Because search has become more long tail. People untrain themselves from using short bursts of keywords, and it starts to become people more articulate in how they search, and they put more conditions and more scenarios, and Google just solves all of that in situ. So yeah, I think no more content marketing, please.
So Google hooked people into writing about things.
Yep.
So it can learn about things.
Yep.
To prevent people from writing about things.
Yeah, either directly or indirectly. Right? Maybe there's a grand conspiracy there that they were evil all along, or maybe this is just a kind of natural evolution of how the ecosystem works. Either way, yeah, I think so. We filled up the machine, and then the machine said, "Thanks, I'm done." Yeah,
so
we continue. That's the hard question, right? What do we do instead? I think there's a few things we can double down on instead. One, and it's tedious to say, but I think Google's EEAT thing, people really underestimate how significant that is. Not as a ranking factor, not as a kind of Google checkbox, but as an ideology. I think it remains true that people buy through people, and that if you want to remain relevant in an infinitely crowded market, because the cost barrier to entry for me to spin up a website and sell a thing at a reasonable price is now nil.
Zero.
Right. So if you want to stand out, you want to get cut through, you want to attract, convince, and convert, I think one of the reliable ways to do that is to have a human with a recognizable, demonstrably expert face with credentials and trust signals and all of these things. And again, not because putting an author bio on a page is a ranking factor or part of some content marketing checklist, but because that's what humans are attracted to.
So we're back to white lab coat as a trust factor, right?
And to brand. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
brand,
for sure. Sure. Yeah. Put some scientists and some doctors on. But I think there's an interesting extension of that nobody's really thinking about, which is that part of that play might involve looking at other channels to influence how people search. So your best SEO tactic for 2026 might be to run billboards or local radio ads, because you change what people search for and you change how they search and how many of them search. And where you can still compete and win is on brand queries, because you maybe own more of that space than you do the non-brand, which is either hyper competitive or hyper generic in the middle is super hard to play in. Brand is a different game. If you can get more people searching for you and trusting you and recognizing you, and then maybe there's a halo effect where even on the non-brand, let's say I rank position 8 on some SERP list. If more people than Google expect are seeing that, recognizing it, influencing the click-through rate, trusting it, clicking it, then that's going to give me a boost to my rankings as well, because Google say, okay, we've clearly ranked you too low, etc. So I think really doubling down on how do I differentiate? How do I tell stories which are interesting, opinionated, and not unique? We've used the word unique badly, I think. Like, we've just take the same words and put them in a different order, and that's somehow valuable. That's less true than ever. But I think doing something unique or doing something uniquely and creating value with that is more important than ever. So all of these places where we've been going, write 2 blog posts a month, what if instead you shared 2 opinions, or you created two resources, actual resources, not a gated PDF.
Right, of course.
Yada, yada.
So basically, in the age of AI, being human is what pays. Like what really
it's really nice.
That's good. That's good. We've gone full circle and we don't need AI anymore, right?
Yeah, we can do actual marketing well. Yeah, part of the natural side effect of this, I think, is a splintering and a throwback to word of mouth and community, which when you look at the rise of things like TikTok, etc., it's no surprise. You look at the rise of influence, well, that's less rise now, but the impact of influencer marketing and followership. That's another thing I think we should be thinking about as the people who might historically have done content marketing now ought to be thinking, how do I win hearts and minds? How do I become discovered and preferred and trusted way, way earlier in the buying cycle and the research funnel, whatever other analogies you have, way before people are ready to purchase? How do you become a trusted advisor so that when they do get to the point where they might have read a blog post or whatever, they're already in?
But I love the irony of now that everything can be done in a few minutes with AI tools. What really works is the long play strategies. Like you need to be there all the time. You need to establish a brand. You need people to trust you. I mean, EEAT, of course. By the way, I'm shocked it's April 4th. I'm shocked Google didn't have an April Fool's.
No, I know.
Adding another E before that, because it would be so
just
good.
An infinite amount. Yep.
to just do empathy or like something like that. That would have been the best joke they had. But I love the fact that it's still, even more than maybe a year ago, it's about being human. It's about being someone who can be trusted, which we have that on the internet, but not in real life. You know, it's easy to be, which it's weird in some ways, but it shows me that the future may be bright online, even with all the AI noise. And there's more AI noise now than when we started recording this interview 9 minutes ago.
Yep.
Which I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I hate or love the online world, but there's hope.
Well, people rush to scale, they rush to mechanize, and they forget that everyone else is doing the same thing. So the truly good stuff will stand out.
Exactly. And that's all the time we have today. Jono, thank you so much. Pleasure to meet you. Pleasure to talk to you. And I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.
Awesome. Thank you very much. See you soon.